The stars look different today, Commander Taeho Kim thought as he stared out the bridge window of the research ship Prometheus. After 15 years of deep space exploration, he could tell when something was wrong with the universe around him. The readings on his screen confirmed his gut feeling. "Commander, we're getting some strange energy signatures from the debris field ahead," Lieutenant Woo Jin Park called out from his station. His fingers moved quickly across the tactical display, trying to make sense of what the sensors were showing. Taeho walked over to look at the data. The Prometheus had been sent to investigate what Earth Command thought was an old asteroid collision site near the Kepler 442 system. It was supposed to be a simple survey mission, the kind of routine work that kept his crew busy between the more exciting discoveries. "Dr. Lee, what do you make of this?" Taeho asked the ship's xenoarchaeologist. Dr. Bo-Ra Lee looked up from her workstation, her dark eyes bright with curiosity. She had spent most of her adult life studying alien ruins and ancient civilizations. When she got excited about something, everyone on the ship knew they were about to find something important. "The metal compositions are unlike anything in our databases," she said, pushing her long black hair behind her ear. "But there's something familiar about the design patterns. I need to get closer to be sure." Communications specialist Hyejin Choi turned in her chair. "Commander, I'm picking up very faint energy readings from some of the larger pieces. Whatever these ships were, some of their systems are still partially active after all this time." Taeho nodded. "Take us in closer, but keep the shields up. I don't want any surprises." As the Prometheus moved deeper into the debris field, the crew began to see the true scale of what lay before them. These weren't the remains of a few ships that had collided. This was the graveyard of an entire fleet. "My God," Woo Jin whispered. "There must be thousands of ships here. Look at the size of some of these pieces." The main view screen showed twisted, metal structures that stretched for kilometers. Some pieces still retained their basic ship-like shapes, while others had been torn apart so completely that only fragments remained. But even the fragments were massive, suggesting that the original vessels had been truly enormous. Dr. Lee stood up suddenly, her face pale. "Commander, I know what these are. The biomechanical fusion patterns, the crystalline energy conduits. These are Draconian ships." A heavy silence fell over the bridge. Everyone knew the stories about the Draconian Empire. They were legends from the ancient past, a civilization so advanced that their technology seemed like magic to younger species. According to the old tales, they had vanished mysteriously over 50,000 years ago, leaving behind only myths and scattered ruins. "That's impossible," Hyejin said. "The Draconians are just stories. Most historians think they never actually existed." "I've studied enough alien architectures to know Draconian design when I see it," Dr. Lee replied firmly. "These ships are real and they're definitely Draconian. But the question is, what destroyed them?" Taeho studied the debris patterns on his screen. In all his years of space exploration, he had seen the aftermath of many battles and accidents. This looked different from anything he had encountered before. "Woo Jin, run a tactical analysis on the destruction patterns. I want to know what kind of weapons could do this." The lieutenant's fingers flew over his controls as he fed the sensor data into the ship's analysis computers. After several minutes, he looked up with a confused expression. "Sir, the computers can't identify the weapon signatures. Whatever destroyed these ships, it's not in any of our databases. The molecular damage patterns are completely unknown." Dr. Lee had moved to the sensor station and was running her own scans. "Commander, I'm reading some interesting energy signatures from that large piece on our starboard side. It looks like it might be part of a command ship. If we could get inside, we might find some answers." Taeho considered the risks. Exploring an ancient alien wreck was always dangerous, but the potential discoveries could be enormous. If these really were Draconian ships, they represented the find of the century. "Hyejin, scan that structure for any active defense systems or dangerous radiation. Woo Jin, prepare a shuttle for an away mission. Dr. Lee, get your equipment ready." And an hour later, a small team was moving through the twisted corridors of what had once been a mighty Draconian warship. The artificial gravity was still partially functional, which made movement easier, but the air was long gone. They wore full environmental suits as they explored the alien vessel. The Draconian technology was beautiful and terrible at the same time. The walls seemed to be grown rather than built, with organic curves that flowed like living tissue. Crystalline conduits ran through everything, their surfaces still glowing faintly with residual energy. "The craftsmanship is incredible," Dr. Lee said through the comm system. "Every surface is perfectly designed. These beings were true artists as well as engineers." They found what appeared to be the ship's command center. It was a vast circular room with a raised platform in the center. Strange symbols covered every surface, pulsing with soft light when their suit lamps touched them. "Commander, I'm getting readings from that console over there," Wu Jin reported. "It looks like some kind of data storage system." Dr. Lee moved to examine the alien device. It was a smooth black crystal about the size of a human head, suspended in a web of metallic fibers. When she touched it with her gloved hand, the crystal began to glow brighter. "It's responding to contact," she said excitedly. "This could be a data core, maybe even the ship's main computer memory. If I can extract it safely—" "Do it," Taeho ordered. "But be careful. We don't know what security measures these things might have." Dr. Lee worked for nearly an hour to safely remove the crystal from its housing. When she finally succeeded, the entire ship seemed to shudder and the remaining lights began to dim. "We should get back to the ship," Wu Jin suggested. "This place is giving me a bad feeling." As they made their way back through the corridors, Taeho couldn't shake the sense that they were being watched. The shadows seemed to move when he wasn't looking directly at them, and he kept hearing sounds that might have been his imagination. Back aboard the Prometheus, Dr. Lee immediately began working on the alien data core. She connected it to the ship's computer systems through several layers of security barriers, making sure that nothing dangerous could escape into their own systems. "The data structure is incredibly complex," she reported. "It's going to take time to decode, but I'm already seeing some interesting patterns. There are references to something called the Silent Ones and mentions of the First Builders." Hee-Jin looked up from her communication station. "Commander, I'm picking up some unusual subspace activity. It started about 10 minutes ago, right after we brought that crystal aboard." "What kind of activity?" "It looks like some kind of automated signal. Very faint, but it's definitely there. And, sir, it's getting stronger." Taeho felt a chill run down his spine. "Dr. Lee, how much longer do you need with that data core?" "At least several more hours for a basic translation, days for anything detailed. You may not have that long. Hee-Jin, keep monitoring that signal. Wu Jin, run a full sensor sweep of the surrounding space. I want to know if anything is heading our way." As the Prometheus drifted through the graveyard of the ancient Draconian fleet, her crew worked frantically to unlock the secrets of the mysterious data core. None of them realized that their discovery had just sent a signal across the galaxy, alerting forces that had been waiting for 50,000 years. The first ships would arrive within hours, and nothing would ever be the same again. The first alien ships arrived exactly 18 hours after Hee-Jin detected the subspace signal. Commander Taeho watched from the bridge as 3 different fleets dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the debris field. Each group positioned themselves carefully, forming a triangle around the Prometheus. "Sir, I'm reading Centauri Republic signatures on the port group," Wu Jin reported, his voice tense. "The starboard group appears to be Vegan collective vessels, and those ships, directly ahead of us, they're flying Andromedan Council colors." Taeho had never seen representatives from all 3 major galactic powers in the same place at the same time. These civilizations barely tolerated each other on good days. For them to arrive together suggested something very important was happening. "They're hailing us," Hee-Jin announced. "Put it on screen." The main view screen split into 3 sections, showing the commanders of each alien fleet. The Centauri representative was a tall, pale being with large, dark eyes and no visible hair. The Vegan spoke through a translation device, its insectoid features clicking as it communicated. The Andromedan appeared almost human, but with silver skin that seemed to shimmer under the bridge lights. "Human vessel," the Centauri commander, spoke first, its voice carrying the formal tone of official business. "You are in violation of the ancient accord. This site is protected under galactic law. Protected? Tejo asked. Our records show this system as unexplored territory. We filed all proper survey claims before beginning our research. The Rayburn Commander's translation device buzzed with static before producing words. Your species is too young to understand. This place is forbidden. You must leave immediately. With respect, Tejo replied carefully. Earth Command has given us authorization to conduct archaeological research here. We haven't broken any laws. The Andromedan commander leaned forward, its silver features reflecting the light from its ship's bridge. Commander Kim, your government was not informed of the restrictions on this area, because your species was not considered advanced enough to pose a threat. That assessment may have been incorrect. Dr. Lee had been listening to the conversation from her station. She stood up and moved closer to Tejo. Ask them about the Draconians, she whispered. I want to see how they react. Tejo nodded slightly. We've discovered evidence that this is the site of an ancient battle involving Draconian vessels. Surely that makes this an important archaeological find for all our civilizations. The reaction was immediate and telling. All three alien commanders suddenly looked uncomfortable. The Centauri's large eyes seemed to grow even larger. The Vegan's clicking sounds became more rapid and agitated. The Andromedan's silver skin actually changed color, becoming darker. The Draconians are ancient history, the Centauri commander said quickly. There is nothing to be learned from their remains. We must insist that you leave this area, the Vegan added. Your presence here endangers galactic stability. Wu Jin had been monitoring the alien ship's positions. He turned to Tejo with concern in his eyes. Commander, they're moving into attack formations. I don't think they're just asking us to leave. Tejo considered his options. The Prometheus was a research vessel, not a warship. Against 3 full fleets, they would have no chance in a direct confrontation. But something about the aliens' behavior suggested they were afraid rather than aggressive. Dr. Lee, what have you found in that data core? Still working on the translation, but I've got fragments, she replied. References to something called the First Builders and mentions of a great war. There's also something about punishment for crimes against the creators. The Andromedan commander seemed to hear her words despite the closed communication channel. Its skin darkened even further. Human scientist, you do not understand the forces you are dealing with. Some knowledge is too dangerous to possess. Dangerous? To whom? Tejo asked. You're all acting like you're afraid of something. We are not afraid, the Centauri commander said, but its voice lacked conviction. We are cautious. Your species has only been in space for a few centuries. You cannot comprehend the complexities of galactic history. Hyojin suddenly turned from her communication station. Commander, I'm picking up another signal. It's coming from inside our own ship. Dr. Lee's eyes widened. The data core, it's responding to something. The translation matrix is accelerating on its own. On her screen, alien symbols were flowing, past at incredible speed. The ship's computers were working harder than they ever had before, processing vast amounts of information that seemed to be unlocking itself. I'm getting more fragments, Dr. Lee reported excitedly. References to the Silent Ones returning to judge the younger races. And Commander, there are mentions of humans. That's impossible, Tejo said. Humans weren't even in space 50,000 years ago. According to this data, humans were in space long before that. It calls them the First Builders and says they created most of the intelligent life in this galaxy. The alien commanders had been listening to this exchange, and their reactions were becoming more extreme. The Centauri was making rapid gestures to someone off-screen. The Vegan's clicking had become a continuous buzz of agitation. The Andromedan was speaking in its own language to its crew. Human Commander, the Andromedan finally said, you must stop this research immediately. The data you are accessing was sealed for good reasons. What reasons? Tejo demanded. What are you all so afraid of? We are not afraid of the dead, the Centauri commander replied. We are afraid of what might return to life. Wu Jin's tactical board lit up with new contacts. Sir, More ships are arriving. I count at least 50 vessels from various smaller civilizations. They're all moving to surround us. Tejo realized they were quickly becoming outnumbered by a growing fleet of alien vessels. Every major power in the galaxy seemed to be converging on their location. Whatever they had found was important enough to bring together civilizations that had been enemies for thousands of years. Dr. Lee, can you give me a summary of what you've learned so far? The Draconians weren't destroyed by enemies, she said, reading from her screen. They were destroyed by their creators returning to punish them for rebellion. The data mentions something called temporal displacement weapons that could erase targets from time itself. And the humans? The data suggests that modern humans are descendants of these first builders. It says they scattered across the galaxy and went into hiding after the Great War. The 3 alien commanders had been conferring among themselves on a private channel. Now they turned back to face Tejo with what looked like a unified decision. Commander Kim, the Andromedan spoke for all of them. Your species has stumbled upon information that was hidden for the protection of all intelligent life in this galaxy. We cannot allow you to continue this research. Are you threatening us? We are offering you a choice, the Centauri commander said. Return the data core to us, submit to memory modification to remove your knowledge of this discovery, and your ship will be allowed to leave safely. And if we refuse? Then you will share the fate of the Draconians, the Vegan commander replied through its translator. Tejo looked around his bridge at his crew. Dr. Lee was still working frantically at her station, trying to extract more information from the alien data core. Hai Jin was monitoring the growing fleet of ships surrounding them. Wu Jin had his hands ready over the weapons controls, though they all knew their small research vessel couldn't fight even one of the alien warships, let alone an entire fleet. I need time to consider your offer, Tejo said finally. You have 1 hour, the Andromedan commander replied. After that, we will take the data core by force. The communication channel closed, leaving the bridge of the Prometheus in tense silence. Outside, nearly 100 alien ships waited in the darkness, their weapons trained on the small human research vessel. Commander, Dr. Lee said quietly, I'm getting more data from the core. There's something here about Earth itself. It says our homeworld isn't really our homeworld at all. Tejo closed his eyes. With each new revelation, their situation was becoming more complicated and more dangerous. Whatever the truth was about humanity's past, it was clear that the major galactic powers would do anything to keep it hidden. The question now was whether they would live long enough to discover why. 2 days later, the Prometheus docked at Nexus Station, the galaxy's oldest and most notorious neutral trading post. Commander Tejo had made a dangerous decision. Instead of surrendering the data core to the alien fleets, he had used his ship's experimental jump drive to escape through a dangerous asteroid field where the larger vessels couldn't follow. Now they were fugitives, wanted by every major power in the galaxy. But Tejo believed the truth was more important than their safety. Dr. Lee had managed to copy the data core before their escape, though she was still struggling to translate the alien information. Stay close and keep your weapons hidden, Tejo told his crew as they walked through the crowded corridors of Nexus Station. This place is full of criminals and information brokers. Anyone could be working for the governments that want us dead. Nexus Station was built inside a hollowed-out asteroid that had been modified over thousands of years. The corridors were a maze of different architectural styles, representing the various civilizations that had contributed to its construction. Aliens of dozens of different species walked past them, conducting business in languages Tejo had never heard before. Dr. Lee stayed close to him, carrying a small bag that contained their copy of the Draconian data. Lieutenant Wu Jin walked behind them, his hand never far from his sidearm. Hai Jin monitored their communications equipment, watching for any signs that they had been detected. There, Dr. Lee pointed to a small shop squeezed between a weapons dealer and a food vendor. The sign above the door was written in several languages, but the universal translator rendered it as Information Exchange, Rare Historical Data. The shop was dark and cramped, filled with strange artifacts and data storage devices from across the galaxy. Behind the counter sat a middle-aged human man with gray hair and tired eyes. He looked up as they entered, and Taeho was surprised to see another member of his own species in such a remote location. "Welcome to my humble establishment," the man said in perfect Korean. "I am Dalsu Han, and I have been expecting you." Taeho immediately reached for his weapon, but Dalsu raised his hands peacefully. "Please, Commander Kim, I am not your enemy. In fact, I may be the only person in the galaxy who can help you understand what you have discovered." "How do you know who we are?" Wu Jin demanded. "Because I have been waiting for someone to find that Draconian data core for over 30 years, Dalsu replied. "I have been collecting information about the real history of our galaxy, the history that the major powers want to keep hidden." "Doctor," Lee stepped forward. "What do you know about the first builders?" Dalsu's tired eyes suddenly became sharp and focused. "So you have begun to translate the data. Good. That means you are ready to learn the truth about what humanity really is." He moved to a secure storage unit behind the counter and withdrew a collection of data crystals, alien artifacts, and what looked like fragments of ancient technology. "What I am about to show you will change everything you believe about our species and our place in the galaxy." The information broker activated a holographic display system that filled the small shop with three-dimensional images and charts. The beings your data core calls the first builders were indeed the original creators of most intelligent life in this galaxy. They existed millions of years ago, long before any of the current civilizations arose. The display showed star maps that covered the entire galaxy, with thousands of systems marked in different colors. The builders were scientists and explorers. They traveled from system to system, seeding worlds with life and helping primitive species evolve into intelligent beings. They were not conquerors or rulers. They were teachers. "What happened to them?" Taeho asked. "They made a mistake," Dalsu replied sadly. "They trusted the species they had created. As the younger races grew in power and knowledge, some of them began to resent their creators. They wanted to be masters of their own destiny, not students guided by ancient beings." Display changed to show battle scenes and destroyed worlds. About 50,000 years ago, a coalition of younger races led by the Draconians launched a coordinated attack on the Builders' colonies and outposts. They believed they could steal their creators' technology and become the new masters of the galaxy. Dr. Lee was taking notes frantically. "But the Draconians were destroyed. We found the wreckage of their fleet." "Yes, they were destroyed," Dalsu confirmed, "but not by the Builders themselves. The Builders had already foreseen this possibility and had prepared for it." "What do you mean?" Dalsu manipulated the holographic controls, showing images of strange devices and massive construction projects. The Builders created automated defense systems throughout the galaxy. When the younger races attacked, these systems activated and eliminated the threat. The Draconian fleet you discovered was destroyed by weapons that can manipulate time itself. Wu Jin looked skeptical. If the Builders had such powerful weapons, why didn't they just defeat the rebellion completely? "Because they chose not to," Dalsu explained. "The Builders realized that their presence was preventing the younger races from truly growing up, so they decided to leave the galaxy voluntarily. But first they took steps to ensure their most dangerous knowledge would be protected." The information broker paused and looked directly at Taeho. "Commander, what do you know about the origin of human beings?" "We evolved on Earth over millions of years," Taeho replied. "Basic biology and history." Dalsu shook his head. "That is what your governments want you to believe. The truth is that humans are the direct descendants of the Builders. When the ancient war ended, the surviving Builders scattered themselves across the galaxy and went into hiding. The holographic display showed DNA sequences and genetic comparisons. Some of them came to a small planet in the outer rim of the galaxy, a world they called Earth. They used genetic manipulation to alter themselves, reducing their technological capabilities and suppressing their memories of the past. Dr. Lee stared at the data in amazement. They made themselves primitive on purpose? They realized that their advanced technology and knowledge had made them arrogant, Dalsu explained. They decided to start over as a simple species and evolve naturally, hoping to become better beings than their ancestors had been. But why hide this from us? Hyojin asked. Dalsu's expression became grim. Because the other galactic powers are terrified of what humans might become if they learned the truth about their heritage. They remember the power of the original builders, and they fear that modern humans might develop the same abilities. He activated another section of the holographic display, showing recent star charts and fleet movements. For the past 500 years since humans first developed space travel, the major civilizations have been carefully monitoring your progress. They have been working together to ensure that humanity never becomes too advanced or discovers the truth about their past. That's why they all showed up when we found the data core, Taeho realized. Exactly. Your discovery triggered automated warning systems that the builders left behind. The galactic powers know that humanity is beginning to approach the level of development where they might naturally start to remember their true nature. Wu Jin was studying the tactical information on the display. So what happens now? Do they try to destroy us like they did the Draconians? Not destroy, Dalsu corrected. Something worse. They have developed what they call reset protocols, ways to force human civilization back to a primitive state without actually killing everyone. Dr. Lee looked up from her notes with horror in her eyes. They would wipe out everything we have built, all of human history and culture. It would not be the first time, Dalsu said quietly. Why do you think human civilization has so many myths about great floods and lost civilizations? They were not myths. They were memories of previous resets. The shop fell silent as the implications of this revelation sank in. Taeho felt as if the universe had suddenly become a much more dangerous and complicated place. Everything he thought he knew about human history and humanity's place in the galaxy was wrong. How long do we have? He asked finally. Dalsu checked a data display that showed incoming ship movements. The galactic powers are mobilizing their fleets. They are not taking any chances this time. I estimate you have perhaps 72 hours before they reach Earth and begin the final reset protocol. Can we stop them? Perhaps, Dalsu replied. But first, you need to understand what you are truly fighting for. Commander, are you prepared to learn the complete truth about what humanity really is? Commander Taeho stared at the holographic display in Dalsu's shop, trying to process everything the information broker had told them. The idea that humans were descendants of the galaxy's most ancient civilization was hard enough to accept. But the suggestion that their entire history had been manipulated was almost too much to believe. Show us, he said finally. Show us the complete truth. Dalsu nodded and began manipulating the holographic controls. The display changed to show a detailed image of Earth's solar system. Commander, what do you know about Earth's moon? It's a natural satellite that formed billions of years ago, Dr. Lee replied. Every schoolchild learns that. Look more carefully, Dalsu said, enhancing the image. As the display zoomed in on the lunar surface, Taeho could see structures that definitely were not natural. Geometric patterns covered the dark side of the moon, hidden from view from Earth's surface. Crystalline formations jutted up from crater floors, and what looked like massive technological installations were buried just beneath the surface. The moon is not a natural satellite, Dalsu explained. It is an artificial construct created by the builders before they went into hiding on Earth. It serves two purposes: monitoring and containment. Containment? Wu Jin asked. The moon generates a field that suppresses human genetic potential, Dalsu continued. For millions of years, it has been preventing humans from developing their true capabilities. It also maintains what the builders called a reset protocol. The display showed energy patterns flowing from the moon to Earth, invisible waves that seemed to bathe the entire planet. Every few thousand years, when human civilization approaches a certain level of technological development, the lunar facility activates the reset protocol. It wipes human society back to a primitive state. Dr. Lee was taking detailed notes, but her hands were shaking. The great floods, the collapse of ancient civilizations, the Dark Ages, these were all artificial? All of them, Dalsu confirmed. The builders programmed the system to keep humanity in a perpetual state of controlled development. They believed it was necessary to prevent humans from repeating the mistakes of their ancestors. Jin had been monitoring their communications. Equipment. She suddenly looked up with alarm. Commander, I'm receiving a coded transmission. It's using old Earth command frequencies, but the encryption is unlike anything in our databases. Put it through the speakers, Taeho ordered. A woman's voice filled the small shop, speaking in Korean but with an accent that seemed old-fashioned. Commander Kim, if you are receiving this message, then you have discovered the truth about the Draconian data core. My name is So-Young Lim, and I have been waiting for someone like you for over 20 years. Taeho exchanged glances with his crew. The name meant nothing to him, but something about the voice seemed familiar. The message continued. I was part of a classified Earth research project that discovered the lunar installations in 2381. Most of my team was eliminated when we learned too much, but a few of us managed to escape and go into hiding. If you want to understand the full truth about humanity's heritage, come to the coordinates I am transmitting now. But hurry. The reset protocol has been activated, and you have less than 72 hours. A set of coordinates appeared on their portable display unit. Taeho recognized them as pointing to a location in Earth's Antarctic region. Commander, Dalsu said urgently, the galactic fleets are already moving toward Earth. This may be your only chance to learn how to stop them. How do we know this isn't a trap? Wu Jin asked. You don't, Dalsu replied. But consider your alternatives. You can run and hide while your entire species is reduced to primitives, or you can fight back with knowledge you don't yet possess. Dr. Lee was studying the coordinates. These point to an area of Antarctica that's supposed to be empty ice sheet, but according to the geological surveys, there are some unusual magnetic readings in that region. Unusual how? The magnetic field patterns are too regular to be natural. They look almost constructed. Taeho made his decision. We go to Earth. Jin, send a coded message to the Prometheus. Tell them to prepare for immediate departure. Commander, Dalsu called as they prepared to leave. Before you go, there is something else you need to know. The woman who contacted you, So-Young Lim, she is not what she seems. What do you mean? According to my sources, So-Young Lim died in 2381 during the classified research project she mentioned. If she is still alive after all these years, it means she has access to technology that can extend human lifespan far beyond normal limits. The implications of this statement hung in the air as Taeho and his crew left the shop and made their way back to their ship. If the mysterious woman had access to advanced technology, it might mean she had found a way to bypass the lunar suppression field. 3 hours later, the Prometheus was in hyperspace, racing toward Earth at maximum speed. Dr. Lee had continued, working on the Draconian data core during their journey, and her discoveries were becoming more disturbing with each hour. Commander, I found references to what the data calls genetic locks, she reported. According to this information, every human being carries dormant genetic sequences that were deliberately suppressed by the lunar field. If these locks were removed, humans would develop capabilities that the data describes as approaching the divine. What kind of capabilities? Enhanced intelligence, extended lifespan, the ability to manipulate matter and energy at the molecular level. The data suggests that the original builders could reshape reality through pure thought. Wu Jin looked up from his tactical station. Sir, I'm detecting multiple fleet movements throughout the galaxy. It looks like every major civilization is mobilizing their forces. Whatever we've discovered, it's got the entire galaxy on high alert. How long until we reach Earth? 18 hours at current speed. Taeho studied the star charts on the main display. Behind them, he could see the energy signatures of pursuing ships. The alien fleets were closing in, but they still had a small lead. Jin, try to contact Earth Command. We need to warn them about what's coming. I've been trying, sir, but I'm not getting any response from normal channels. It's like Earth's communication grid has gone dark. Dr. Lee suddenly straightened at her workstation. Commander, I'm getting new data from the core. It's responding to our proximity to Earth. The information flow has increased dramatically. What is it showing you? Instructions, she replied, with excitement. Step-by-step procedures for accessing the lunar installations, and Commander, there are references to other humans who have retained knowledge from previous reset cycles. Other humans like So Young Lim. Exactly. According to this data, the builders always ensured that a small group of humans would survive each reset, with their memories intact. These guardians were tasked with preserving knowledge and preparing for the day when humanity would be ready to reclaim its true heritage. The ship suddenly shuddered as it dropped out of hyperspace. Through the main view screen, Taeho could see Earth's familiar blue and white surface ahead of them. But something was wrong. The planet's magnetic field was fluctuating in patterns he had never seen before. Sir, Wu Jin reported with alarm. I'm reading massive energy buildups from the lunar installations. Whatever the reset protocol is, it's already begun. And Commander, He-Jin added, I'm detecting ship movements throughout the solar system. The alien fleets aren't far behind us. Taeho realized they had arrived just in time for what might be the most important moment in human history. In the next few hours, their species would either reclaim its ancient heritage or be reduced to primitives forever. Set course for the Antarctic coordinates, he ordered. Maximum speed, we're running out of time. The Prometheus descended through Earth's atmosphere like a falling star, racing against time as alien fleets gathered at the edge of the solar system. Commander Taeho watched the ice-covered landscape of Antarctica rush past beneath them, searching for any sign of the hidden installation that So Young Lim had directed them to find. There, Dr. Lee pointed to a section of ice that looked exactly like every other section they had passed over. The coordinates match, but I'm not seeing anything unusual on visual scan. Run a deep sensor sweep, Taeho ordered. Whatever's down there has been hidden for a long time. Wu Jin's fingers moved across his tactical controls, directing the ship's most powerful sensors at the seemingly empty ice field below. After several minutes, his eyes widened. Commander, you're not going to believe this. There's a massive structure beneath the ice. It extends down for over 2 kilometers. Can you find an entrance? I'm reading what might be an access tunnel, about 300 meters to the north. But sir, the structure is huge. It's like an entire city buried under the ice. As they circled the area, a section of ice suddenly began to glow with a soft blue light. The frozen surface cracked and split, revealing a smooth metallic surface beneath. A circular opening appeared, just large enough for their ship to enter. Guess that answers the question about finding an entrance, Taeho said grimly. The Prometheus descended into the tunnel, following a path that curved downward through solid ice and rock. Emergency lighting activated along the walls as if the installation had been waiting for their arrival. After several minutes of descent, they emerged into a vast underground chamber. The hidden facility was unlike anything Taeho had ever seen. The architecture was definitely human in origin, but it incorporated design elements that seemed far beyond current Earth technology. Crystalline structures grew from the walls like living things, pulsing with soft light. The ceiling was so high, it disappeared into darkness above them. Look at the size of this place, He-Jin whispered as they prepared to disembark. How long has this been here? According to the dating scans, Dr. Lee reported, some sections of this facility are over 50,000 years old, but other parts appear to have been built or modified much more recently. They landed on a platform that seemed designed specifically for their ship. As the engines powered down, a figure emerged from the shadows near the platform's edge. It was a woman who appeared to be in her 40s with long black hair and eyes that seemed to hold the weight of centuries. Commander Kim, she said, speaking in the same voice they had heard on the transmission. I am So Young Lim. Welcome to the Antarctic Archive. Taeho studied her carefully as his crew disembarked. There was something about her that didn't quite fit with his expectations. Her clothes were modern, but her manner of speaking seemed formal, almost ancient. Ms. Lim, our information suggests you died 20 years ago, she smiled sadly. In a sense, I did. The person I was before I discovered this place no longer exists. I have been changed by the knowledge I found here, and by the responsibilities that come with it. What is this place? This is one of several installations the builders created to preserve knowledge and prepare for humanity's eventual awakening. I have been its guardian for the past 2 decades, waiting for someone to discover the Draconian data core and trace the clues back here. She led them through corridors lined with strange technology and data storage systems. The walls were covered with symbols that looked similar to those they had seen on the alien data core, but somehow more familiar, as if they triggered half-remembered dreams. "How many people know about this place?" Dr. Lee asked. "Currently, there are 47 of us scattered across the planet," So Young replied. "All survivors from previous reset cycles or descendants of survivors. We have been working in secret to preserve human knowledge and prepare for the day when the final reset could be prevented." They entered a vast circular chamber filled with holographic displays and data terminals. The technology was clearly advanced, but it had a distinctly human feel to it, as if it had been designed by people who understood human psychology and ergonomics. The builders were not the monsters that the younger galactic races believed them to be, So Young explained as she activated the displays. They were scientists and philosophers who genuinely sought to help other species develop and grow, but they made mistakes, and those mistakes led to corruption within their own society. The displays showed historical records that spanned millions of years. Images of vast, space-borne civilizations, terraformed worlds, and technologies that could manipulate the fundamental forces of the universe. The original human civilization was incredibly advanced, she continued. They could travel instantly between star systems, create matter from pure energy, and extend their lives indefinitely. But this power made some of them arrogant. They began to see themselves as gods rather than gardeners. "What changed?" Tejo asked. "A civil war that nearly destroyed the galaxy," So Young replied grimly. One faction of humans wanted to rule over the younger species they had created. Another faction believed in allowing those species to develop independently. The conflict raged for thousands of years and devastated entire star systems. Dr. Lee was studying the displays with fascination. The Draconians and their allies thought they were rebelling against tyrants. In some cases, yes. There were humans who had become corrupt and were indeed acting as tyrants. But most of the builder colonies were peaceful research stations and educational facilities. The younger races didn't distinguish between the good and the bad. They attacked everything. Wu Jin had been monitoring their communications equipment. "Ma'am, I'm reading massive fleet movements in orbit. The alien forces have arrived, and they're taking positions around the planet." So Young nodded grimly. "I expected as much. The lunar facility has been transmitting reset warnings across the galaxy ever since you activated the Draconian data core. The galactic powers know that humanity is approaching a critical threshold." "What kind of threshold?" "The point where the genetic locks begin to break down naturally," she explained. "Every few generations, some humans are born with reduced suppression from the lunar field. They develop enhanced abilities and begin to remember fragments of our ancient past. The galactic powers have been watching for signs of this awakening." She led them to another section of the chamber, where a massive 3-dimensional map of the solar system was displayed. The moon was shown in great detail, with energy patterns flowing between it and Earth. "The lunar facility doesn't just suppress human development," So Young explained. "It also serves as a monitoring station and a weapon. If necessary, it can generate electromagnetic pulses that would destroy every piece of electronic technology on Earth, effectively ending human civilization. Can we stop it? Perhaps." The builders programmed the lunar system with several fail-safes, including the ability to shut it down if humanity proved they had evolved beyond their ancestors' mistakes. But activating those fail-safes requires a demonstration of wisdom that goes beyond mere technological advancement. He-Jin looked up from her equipment with alarm. "Commander, the alien fleets are moving into attack positions. I'm reading weapons charging on multiple ships." "They're not going to wait for the reset protocol," Tejo realized. "They're planning to destroy us directly." So Young's expression became resolute. "Then it's time for you to make a choice, Commander. I can give you access to the full archive of builder knowledge. With that information, you could develop weapons and defenses that would make humanity invincible. You could drive off the alien fleets and establish human dominance over the galaxy. And the alternative? You could prove that modern humanity has truly learned from the mistakes of the past. You could find a way to resolve this conflict without violence, demonstrating that humans deserve to reclaim their heritage as teachers and guides rather than rulers. Taeho looked around at his crew, seeing the weight of the decision reflected in their eyes. In the next few hours, the choices they made would determine not just the fate of humanity, but the future of the entire galaxy. "Show us the archive," he said finally. "All of it. We need to understand exactly what our ancestors were capable of before we decide what kind of civilization we want to build." The archive chamber filled with light as So Young activated the full builder knowledge database. Commander Taeho felt overwhelmed as millions of years of human history and scientific achievement flowed across the holographic displays around him. Technologies that could reshape planets, weapons that could destroy stars, and knowledge that could unlock the deepest secrets of the universe. "This is what your ancestors were capable of," So Young explained as the displays showed massive space constructs and reality-altering devices. At their peak, the ancient humans were essentially gods. They could create life, manipulate time, and bend the laws of physics to their will. Dr. Lee was recording everything, but her hands were shaking as she witnessed the scope of humanity's lost heritage. "The power levels are incredible. With technology like this, we could defend Earth against any threat, or we could become the threat," Taeho said quietly, studying images of worlds that had been torn apart by ancient human weapons. Wu Jin looked up from his communication station with urgency. "Commander, the alien fleets are demanding we surrender. They're giving us 10 minutes before they begin bombardment." So Young moved to a control console at the center of the chamber. "The choice is yours, Commander Kim. I can activate the builder weapon systems that are hidden throughout this solar system. Your moon is not just a suppression field. It's also the most powerful weapon ever created. With a single command, you could eliminate every alien ship in orbit." "And then what?" Taeho asked. "We become the rulers of the galaxy through fear and violence?" "You would be following in the footsteps of your ancestors," So Young replied, "taking your rightful place as the masters of creation." "No," Dr. Lee said suddenly. "That's exactly what led to the ancient war. Power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. If we use these weapons, we'll just repeat the same mistakes that forced our ancestors to go into hiding." Haijin was monitoring the alien communications. "Commander, I'm intercepting their battle plans. They're not just planning to destroy us. They want to activate something they call the final solution. It sounds like they intend to use the lunar facility to reduce all human technology to the Stone Age level." So Young's expression darkened. The final solution was always the backup plan. If the reset protocols weren't sufficient, the galactic powers agreed they would completely destroy human civilization rather than risk our return to power. Taeho studied the tactical displays showing the positions of the alien fleets. Nearly 300 ships from dozens of different civilizations surrounded Earth, all united in their fear of humanity's potential. In orbit above, Earth's defense forces were desperately trying to organize a response, but they were massively outgunned. "There has to be another way," he said. "Some solution that doesn't involve either surrendering or destroying them." "Commander," Wu Jin reported, "I'm reading energy buildups from the lunar installations. It looks like the aliens are attempting to activate the reset protocol remotely. How long do we have?" "Maybe 30 minutes before the pulse reaches Earth." So Young moved to another control panel. "I can block their attempt, but only by fully activating the builder defense systems. Once those systems are online, there will be no going back. Humanity will either rule the galaxy or be destroyed trying." Taeho closed his eyes, trying to think through the impossible situation. Every option seemed to lead to either slavery or warfare. But then he remembered something Dalsu had said back on Nexus Station. "What if we told them the truth?" he asked suddenly. "What do you mean?" "What if we broadcast everything we've learned to every ship in orbit and every world in the galaxy? The complete history of the builders, the real reasons for the ancient war, and what modern humanity actually wants. Dr. Lee's eyes lit up with understanding. Transparency instead of secrecy. Show them we're not the same as our ancestors. The galactic powers will never believe it. So Young warned. They've spent 50,000 years fearing the return of the builders. They won't be convinced by words alone. Then we'll show them through actions, Taeho decided. Heejin, open a broadcast channel to every ship in orbit. Include the galactic networks if you can. I want everyone to hear this. Commander, are you sure about this? Woojin asked. If we reveal everything, there's no taking it back. If we don't reveal everything, we'll either be slaves or tyrants. Neither option is acceptable. Heejin worked frantically at her controls. Channel open, sir. You're broadcasting to approximately 50 billion people across the galaxy. Taeho took a deep breath and began to speak. This is Commander Taeho Kim of the United Earth Federation. I am speaking to the commanders of the fleets currently surrounding Earth and to the leaders of all civilizations listening to this broadcast. He activated the holographic displays, sharing the historical records they had discovered. What you are seeing is the complete and unedited history of the beings you call the Builders or the Silent Ones. These records show that the ancient humans were not the tyrants you believe them to be. Yes, some of them became corrupt, but most were teachers and guardians who genuinely wanted to help younger species develop. The displays showed the peaceful builder colonies and research stations, alongside evidence of the faction that had indeed become tyrannical. The war that destroyed the ancient civilization was fought between humans themselves as much as between humans and younger races. Our ancestors recognized that their power had become corrupting, and they chose to exile themselves, rather than continue the cycle of violence. Dr. Lee stepped forward to address the broadcast. The lunar suppression field was not imposed on humanity by conquerors. It was created by our own ancestors as a way to ensure that future generations would develop wisdom before they developed power. Every reset cycle was designed to give us another chance to grow morally and ethically. But that time of testing is over, Taeho continued. Modern humanity has evolved beyond our ancestors' flaws. We don't want to rule the galaxy. We want to be part of it. We want to share the knowledge we've inherited, not use it as a weapon against you. He paused, looking directly into the camera. To prove this, I am transmitting the complete builder archives to every ship in orbit and every world in the galaxy. The technology that could make us gods is now freely available to all civilizations. Use it wisely, and help us build a future based on cooperation rather than fear. So Young stared at him in shock. Commander, do you realize what you've just done? You've given away humanity's greatest advantage. I've given away our greatest burden, Taeho replied. Power that must be hidden is power that corrupts. But knowledge that is shared freely can heal old wounds and build new bridges. The communication channel crackled with responses from the alien fleets. Confusion, anger, and gradually, something that might have been hope. The Andromedan commander was the first to respond directly. Commander Kim, even if we accept that your intentions are peaceful, how do we know that future generations of humans won't use this knowledge for conquest? You don't, Taeho admitted. Just as we don't know that your civilizations won't use it for the same purpose. That's why I'm proposing the creation of a new galactic council, with representatives from every species, including humanity. We can monitor each other and work together to ensure that the ancient mistakes are never repeated. Dr. Lee added, the Builder archives contain more than just weapons and technology. They include philosophical and ethical teachings about the responsible use of power. Perhaps it's time for all our civilizations to learn those lessons together. For long minutes, space around Earth was silent as the alien commanders conferred among themselves. Taeho could see on the displays that some ships were powering down their weapons, while others remained at high alert. Finally, the Centauri commander spoke. Commander Kim, your proposal is unprecedented. You are asking us to trust a species that we have feared for 50,000 years. And I'm asking my own species to trust civilizations that were prepared to destroy us rather than let us develop freely, Taeho replied. Trust has to start somewhere. Why not start with us? Woojin suddenly looked up from his tactical display, Sir, the lunar installations are shutting down. The reset protocol has been cancelled. So-Young was monitoring the archive systems. The builder defense systems are also going into standby mode. It appears your broadcast has triggered some kind of recognition protocol. What do you mean? The ancient systems are recognizing that humanity has passed the final test. By choosing to share power rather than hoard it, you've proven that the species has evolved beyond the flaws that led to the original conflict. Hyajin was receiving messages from across the galaxy. Commander, I'm getting responses from dozens of civilizations. Most of them are expressing cautious interest in the Galactic Council proposal. And the fleets in orbit? They're standing down. The Andromedan commander is requesting permission to send representatives to Earth for formal negotiations. Tae-ho felt a weight he hadn't even realized he was carrying lift from his shoulders. Grant the permission. It's time for humanity to take its place in the galactic community, not as rulers, but as partners. 3 months later, the first session of the new Galactic Council convened in orbit around Earth. Representatives from over 200 civilizations gathered to discuss.